Hey guys, today I'm going to kind of do a story time. I'm going to let you know exactly why I became a bookkeeper. And the main motivation for me was to help my family pay off our debt. My name is Morgan. Check my website out at FinePoints.biz if you want to know more, but I do YouTube videos about bookkeeping and getting organized. So I've talked a little bit before about why I became a bookkeeper and kind of my motivation behind that. But today I just wanted to give you the whole debt-free journey that we went through as a family. So you can kind of get to know me a little bit more and kind of see what the potential is for bookkeeping and how that can work out into your life. Because I know a lot of you might be in a similar position. You have a certain financial goal that you want to achieve, and bookkeeping is definitely a great way to do that. All right, so backing up a few years, I met my husband in college, and we graduated in 2006, and then we got married shortly after we graduated. And then our first year of marriage, we actually went to Japan to teach English. I don't know if I have mentioned that here, but that was an awesome experience. We got to do a lot of traveling and just kind of a fun way to start our lives together. And so starting out, we did have a little bit of debt. I think we had about $10,000 from undergrad, and we actually were able to pay that off pretty quickly. When we did that year abroad, we actually were able to save money and kind of have bigger chunks to put down to pay off those loans. So that didn't really stop us up too much. But then after that year, my husband went to grad school. So he was there for 3 years. We lived in Minnesota at the time, and I was working full time. So the fact that I was working did help us not to have to take out too many student loans as we would have otherwise. But at the end of his grad school, we did end up with $120,000 of student loans. So that was kind of this monstrous amount that was really overwhelming. And at that time, we did kind of get into Dave Ramsey. We took one of his classes, and so we decided to get really serious about paying off those loans as quickly as we could. All right, and spoiler alert, it took us about 5 years to pay off those loans. It was not a super quick and easy process. It was a really long and frustrating and drawn out process. But in the end, of course, it was totally worth it. And in the end, it was a really bonding experience for my husband and I to kind of just have that really clear goal and work towards it for 5 years. Okay, so I'm going to tell you briefly what happened within each of those 5 years. My dates and math might be a little bit off, but you'll get the general idea. All right, so the first year, I was the main one working. My husband was looking for a job in his field, so we kind of could start to get a little bit of traction. But really the second year was the one where we felt okay, we're making progress. We're doing really good. We had 2 incomes. We could basically live off one and then put the other one towards our student loans. So we felt like we were making progress. I know I made a chart with each, I think it was each $10,000, and I would check it off every so often when we were able to pay off things. And then in the third of the 5 years, we had our daughter, and we talked a lot about if I would go back to work or not. There was a lot of pros and cons to each. Ultimately, I decided to stay home with her and quit my full-time job. So then again, we were back to 1 income. It slowed down our loan payoff a lot. And so that is when I decided to become a bookkeeper. So I had a friend who was doing bookkeeping, and she made it seem manageable, and she was a great resource. I have a couple of videos that talk about having a mentor and that kind of thing. So she was able to answer some of my questions. And it took me probably about 3 to 6 months to really get my business rolling and get a few clients. But then once I did, the next year I had a goal of earning $1,000 every month. So that was my goal. I wanted to put, not to just earn $1,000, but to put $1,000 towards those student loans. So I think by now we're in the 4th year of our student loans. And then I feel like we started making a lot more traction. I was able to contribute to paying off those loans, and my husband's income had also gone up over the years. So I feel like, again, finally we're making traction. And then of course the thing that happens with loans is when you have $120,000 worth of loans, the interest is astronomical. It was every day we had to pay $20 extra per day just in interest or something. So then, it's really hard to even make any progress at the beginning, but then once you pay down and pay down and pay down, then the interest just becomes more manageable and you can start seeing even more progress. And within these 5 years, we lived very simply. We, every time we would get a raise, we tried to, as much as possible, maintain living at the same standard and then just put all of our extra money towards the student loans. We really didn't eat out that much, maybe occasionally with friends, but just the 2 of us would never eat out or with our kids. And we took very limited cheap vacations. I think within those 5 years, we took one vacation that was a little bit more farther away, but otherwise we would just go see family. And that was our vacations. And one of the biggest things we did that was different than a lot of our peers is we just rented an apartment for those 5 years. So we really put off buying our first house for longer than we probably would have otherwise. And I mean, I don't know if I would do it exactly the same way again. I am really happy with where we ended up in our house, and our first house probably would have been different if we had bought it sooner. So, I mean, in general, I am totally happy with our decisions. But that is one thing that was really hard to see, like all of our friends buying houses, and we were just not. All right, so the fifth and final year, we could definitely see the end in sight. We're making more and more progress, and that is the year that we had our second kid. So the whole time I was pregnant, we did save money because just in case something went wrong or we had extra medical bills that we weren't expecting, we didn't want to, have zero cash on hand. So we kind of saved during those 9 months, and then a couple months after he was born and everything was fine, we used that lump sum of money to pay off our loans, and we were so excited. It was an awesome day. I remember my husband had gotten champagne from somewhere and he had hid it in our house so that the day that we paid off the loans, he cracked open the bottle of champagne and had these two little glasses while our kids were in bed, and we were sitting in the living room. So it was a really long process, like I mentioned, but it 100% taught us so many things. We had to have crazy discipline. It helped us realize that if you have a really specific goal in mind, it's easier to kind of stay motivated. And we learned, to delay the pleasure or the gratification of what we want now in order to, hold off for that longer goal. And of course, it made me start my bookkeeping business, or it motivated me to start. And that has been such a huge blessing. Because again, I think I mentioned when I had my second kid, I cut down a lot. I kind of gave my clients to other bookkeepers and then just focused on that for a year or two. And then now, I'm able to branch out and do some teaching with you guys and do just a lot of things, and it's so flexible and it is a really great source of income. So let me know in the comments why you are thinking of becoming a bookkeeper, or why you are a bookkeeper, if you have certain financial goals in mind, or if that's always what you loved as kids, like doing finance and budgets and stuff. Let me know in the comments what your situation is. If you want to celebrate paying off those loans with me, give me a thumbs up. That is a huge help to my channel. And then don't forget to hit the red subscribe button, especially if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Usually I talk a little bit more about the technical aspects of bookkeeping, but I also just like to get to know you guys and have you get to know me a little bit better. So subscribe for a video every week. Thanks so much. Bye. What's the word?